This is our fifth video for Chapter 8. This is Chapter 8, Section 5, Volumes of Rectangular Prisms. What you'll learn: to find the volume of rectangular prisms with fractional edge lengths. And remember, any side can be considered the base of a two-dimensional parallelogram. You only have one term you need to define in this video. Be sure to label it as terms or vocabulary in your notebook. Write down the word, and when you see it, pause the video and write down the definition. Your term for this video is volume. The volume of a fish tank tells you how much water the tank will hold. So the volume of a three-dimensional figure is the number of cubic units needed to fill the space inside the figure. And remember, when we were talking about surface area, we were just multiplying two amounts. So when you multiply two amounts, it gives you a squared answer. But in volume, we'll be multiplying three amounts, so that gives you an answer in cubic units, or cubed. So instead of doing your unit of measure squared, when you're doing volume, you're doing your unit of measure cubed. Now let's look at finding the volume of a prism. Now, the difference between volume and surface area just wants to know if you measured the outside of the shape, how big is just the outside. The volume wants to know how much space the entire three-dimensional shape takes up. So if you filled it with water, how much water would it take to fill it up? So if we're going to find the volume of the rectangular prism, we need to choose an appropriate cube. Two of the mixed numbers have a fraction with the denominators of 2, so we'll use a half unit cube. So each cube is going to be half times a half times a half. So then we're going to count the number of cubes in the prism. So 2½ equals 5 halves, or 5 times 1/2. So there are 5 cubes across the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then there are 3 cubes along the side. 1½ equals 3 halves, or 3 times 1/2. So there are 3 across the side. 1, 2, 3. Then there are 4 cubes up. 2 equals 4/2, or 4 times 1/2. So there are 4 cubes up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the prism has a total of 5 times 3 times 4 cubes, or 60 cubes. So we want to find the volume of 1 cube. And we know our 1 cube is a half by half by half. So half times half times half is 1/8, so 1 little cube is 1/8 of a cubic unit. So we multiply the number of cubes by the volume of each cube. So 60 times 1/8 equals 60/8, which simplifies down to 15/2, which then simplifies to 7 1/2. So the volume of the prism is 7½ cubic units. Pause the video and do this quick check in your notebook. Be sure to show all your work and any calculations that you do. Now, in the past, you have used formulas to find the volume of prisms whose edges have whole number lengths. In those formulas, you have the volume equals the area of the base times the height, or volume equals length times width times height. Because remember, the area of the base is just the length times the width for the surface area of that shape. So it's just the same as saying the length times the width times the height of the shape for the volume. You can use these same formulas when the lengths of the prism edges are fractions or mixed numbers. Let's look at an example of finding the volume of a prism. So say we want to find the volume of the fish tank shown. The first way we can do it is the counting cubes method. So if we're going to do cubes, we have to think, okay, what size cube should I use? The fraction we're given is in thirds. So our cube size should be 1/3 of a foot cubes. So 2/3 converts to 8/3, so that means there's 8 cubes across the front. 1 1/3 converts to 4/3, so there's 4 cubes along the side. 2 converts to 6/3, so there are 6 cubes up. So the prism has a total of 8 times 4 times 6 cubes, or 192 cubes. So the volume of a 1/3 foot cube is 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3, or 1/27 of a cubic foot. We multiply that by 192, gives us 192 over 27, which simplifies down to 64 over 9, which then converts to 7 1/9. So the volume of the prism is 7 1/9 cubic feet. We can also use the formula method. So we use the formula for a volume of a rectangular prism, length times width times height. So that would be 2 2/3 times 1 1/3 times 2. So we convert those mixed numbers into irrational fractions, or improper fractions, I mean. So that would be 8 over 3 times 4 over 3 times 2 over 1. So 8 times 4 is 32, times 2 is 64, over 3 times 3 times 1, which is 9. So 64 over 9 simplifies down to 7 1/9. So again, the volume is 7 1/9 cubic feet, or you could write it as 7 1/9 FT with a cube symbol. Pause the video and do this quick check in your notebook. Be sure to number it, show all your work, and any calculations that you do. Now it's time to check your understanding. Be sure to label it as check your understanding in your notebook, number all of your questions, copy down any important information, show all calculations. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. You do not have to do number 2.